All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about some different equipment that we're going to need. So again, if we're just starting out with our youth archers or somebody who's brand new and just wants to shoot again in the backyard or just wants to shoot around, not getting real serious about it, not really getting into big competition. Um, as far as again getting into like a compound bow right now, what kind of equipment do we need then to get started? So, from my opinion, I really like a recurve bow. Um, something again. A recurve can be had for under $100. This happens to be a black hunter. Um, there's a bunch of different manufacturers out there that make this bow. It's a Chinese bow. Like I said, under $100. It's actually really nice. This one, mine happens to be a 35-pound bow. So at 28 inches, because that's the way they measure a recurve bow, is poundage at 28 inches. So when you draw it back to 28 inches, if I draw back at 20 inches, I'm holding 35 pounds. Now, if you've been around compound bows and stuff, you hear a lot of, 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds, right? So you're like 35, no big deal. That's easy. Well, you got to remember, a compound bow has what they call let off. So 80% let off, 90% let off, what have you. So, and that's the amount of weight that you're holding. So a recurve bow doesn't have let off, right? You're just pulling back. It's building up poundage as you're drawing it back until 28 pounds or 28 inches. I'm sorry. At 28 inches, that's where they measure the limb weight, if you will. So if you have a longer draw length and you keep pulling back, you're going to pull back more weight. So in my case, by measurement, I have a 30-inch draw length. So my bow's 35 pounds. At 28 inches, I draw back to 30 inches. I'm probably pulling closer to 38-ish pounds or so, close to 40 maybe, because it'll still build up. So as you have smaller statured people that, like kids, that don't have a big draw length, they're not pulling as much weight. Now you can get a recurve bow down in the teens of pounds, which is actually really good to do. Again, and the nice thing about recurve is they're very simple, right? There's very, very few parts on one. They're pretty lightweight, so they're easier for your archer to hold. Like I said, and there's not much to them. Another option for bows, and I talked about this before, are the Genesis bows. So Genesis bow is this guy here. So as you look at it, and again, it looks like it's got a cam on it. It's got string, cables, cable guard, a wheel, right? Limbs, riser. So it looks like a compound bow. Nice thing about the Genesis bows is, well, one, they're very lightweight, so they are adjustable. The original Genesis bows, and this is an original one, without looking up the specs, I think it goes between 10 and 20 pounds. So by turning in this limb bolt, I crank it all the way in and I get 20 pounds of draw weight. Now with these, the draw weight is linear. So as you pull it back, right, as I draw it back, it's pretty much the same no matter what my draw length is. Now, it acts like a recurve in the fact that there's no let off, there's no hump as you pull back, and then it kind of gets easier for you to hold. It's, like I said, it's like a recurve that you're pulling back as much, you're holding as much weight as you are pulling. So if I have it, and this is actually probably at 15 pounds or something like that, you can see there's a gap there. It's not all the way down. I'd have to check it to see what the weight is set at right now, but again, I really, really like these bows for a growing kid. Again, it gets them into shooting. You can turn the weight up a little bit, as they build their strength. Gets them that kind of that feel of if they want to go to a compound type bow in the future, it gets them that feel. But they're also go from a 15-inch draw length, so again, if you're small, 15-inch, probably about there, right? But it goes all the way up to 30. I mean, this thing fits me. So, so they're kind of fun in that regard. What you're gonna need is arrows. Right? I need arrows. Well, what kind of arrows do I get? And today, right, most of the arrows you're gonna see are gonna be carbon. It's gonna be a carbon shaft arrow. That's just what they're gonna be. And to age myself, back in the day, when I was young and getting into archery, we shot big aluminum arrows. And to say that, let me back up, slide over here for a second. So as I pull out, I got some big aluminum, some old big aluminum arrows. I mean, this was the standard back a long time ago. And people still shoot aluminum arrows. Don't get me wrong. Carbon is not the only thing out there. There's aluminum out there. As a matter of fact, if you're shooting the Genesis bows and you buy a Genesis bow kit, you're going to get with it. If you buy the kit, you'll get it'll come with arrows. It'll come with Easton aluminum arrows, and they're actually very, very good arrows. So, I mean, it comes with some good arrows. Now, if you're going to shoot, say, a recurve, and it depends what you're shooting, you may want different types of fletchings or feathers. So in this case, these ones are these are feathers, right? And then I have for my fletching, and then I have over here. Let me pull one of these out. These are plastic, so this is a plastic vein, but these are all my fletchings. So I can have either feathers or plastic veins. And it's like, why would I have one versus the other? What does it matter? So for my recurve, let's say, this recurve in particular doesn't have an arrow rest, right? I'm shooting off of the shelf. So I use arrows that have feathers on them. So because they push down very easily. So as I'm shooting, and as this is coming across, let me see, can't see on the other side, right? As this is coming off of my string and gliding, it just glides. It just pushes that feather up and glides and keeps going. It doesn't kick or do anything else. Where the plastic veins, if I try to shoot the plastic veins off of here, because they're harder, when they hit this, see how this goes up? That's going to throw my arrow all over the place. So I would not use plastic veins with a recurve bow when I'm shooting off of the shelf. Now, Genesis bow has this little flipper on here, okay? And this flips in, it moves out of the way, which is nice. So, and I'll shoot plastic veins off of this one. And the reason is, when I'm shooting, see if I can do this kind of backwards. So as I'm shooting, and this is, whoops, come off the string. This is coming off the string, and I'm going along. It's going to hit that flipper, but that flipper will flip out of the way. It will move out of the way as my fletching passes it. It's gonna push out of the way, and my arrow will go straight through. What I have found is trying to shoot, if I shoot any of my feathered arrows with this type of rest, it actually catches my feather and rips the feathers off the arrow. So I shoot plastic veins, plastic fletchings with these. So we need a bow, we need some arrows, and then your pro shops will hook you up. So now we got to decide, how are we going to shoot? Now again, most new archers, again, if you are shooting, well, either one, the Genesis or a recurve, I'm going to shoot fingers. I'm not going to use a mechanical device or a release or whatever. I'm going to use one of two things. I will either use a glove, and I'm shooting just, again, I'm shooting fingers. So, right, I have a glove, and this is just a leather archery glove. This one happens to be made by Bear, or a tab. So a tab, the way that works is, all right, I can slide on my finger, and then I can kind of grasp the string with my tab and pull. But again, equipment, a bow. I highly recommend either a Genesis or a recurve. I really like the recurve bows because, frankly, they're lightweight and they're fun to shoot. And you can keep it forever. You're never really going to outgrow it. I mean, who cares if it's low poundage or not? They're still fun to shoot. We need arrows. Depending on what type of bow you're going to shoot, again, your local shop, if you go to, go talk to someone about it, they're going to hook you up. They'll get you the right arrows, the right spine. We're not going to get into that, but the right length. They can help with all of that. Again, as far as a shooting device, whether it's a glove or a tab, that'd be my recommendation. The nice thing again about the Genesis is I can adjust the weight on this. So if I have somebody who can't pull back 20 pounds, I can turn it down 12, 15, 10 pounds, whatever, that they can pull back and hold. And if I have somebody else who uses it who can easily pull that back, and I can crank it back up again if I need to. So that's the nice thing about this. I can adjust the draw weight on it very easily. And again, whether I'm pulling here or here or here, it's the same draw weight. So if you're looking for equipment that you can use across a whole host of people that is pretty consistent, that's this guy. Again, these very lightweight, which I like, but you're going to get them, the limbs, like this one here, you can see is 35 pounds at 28 inches. Again, so your poundage is going to be based on what limbs are on the bow, and then again, what their draw length is, how far they pull it back. So again, if they're not a 28-inch draw, if I'm only here, I'm not pulling 35 pounds. Whereas I get back here, it gets a lot harder. So just all things to take into consideration. Robustness. Frankly, the Genesis, it's a little heavier bow. It's made of aluminum and fiberglass, and it's probably going to take a beating more than maybe say a wood, than a wood cord recurve is going to take. But a recurves can take, I'd say, pretty good handling too. But just things you got to be thinking of when you're going through and figuring out what type of equipment you're going to use. So that's just what I want to talk about on equipment. And good luck.